Today's the 28th.
All right, so first step for this problem, if we're going to find f of 4, that means it's going to be f of 4 equals 10 times what?
10 times 4.
10 times 4. Because when I put the 4 in the parentheses, it means that x is 4. And so we got 10 times 4 plus 9. And so we end up finding that f of 4 equals, well, what do I do first? The multiplication or the addition? The multiplication. So that's going to be 40 plus 9. And that is how we got our final answer here of f of 4 equals 49. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at graphs and how we can also use this function notation when we look at graphs. So take a look at that graph up there. Now, this is not a graph where you're expected to know how to make that graph from an equation. Instead, it is actually chosen specifically because you can. I want you to be able to look at that graph and be able to use the information in it to find these values. Now, first of all, it asks us to find each value. The first one is f of 4. I put it in purple because I wanted to match the color of the graph of f. Because notice, that is labeled as the graph of f. So if I want to find f of 4, what is 4 as I look at the graphing grid? Is 4 the x-coordinate or the y-coordinate?
X.
It is x.
Oh, no, you're saying.
Because remember, it's normally f of x. Now it's f of 4. So the x is 4. So basically then, I'm supposed to go over to my graph
Is it 5?
and see, okay, if x is 4, what is f? And so it's going to be that number right there. So what is the y-coordinate at that point?
4, 2.
It is 2. The x-coordinate is 4. The y-coordinate is 2. And that's how we can use the graph. Because f, remember, f of x works just like y. So if it's saying what's f of 4, it's saying what is the y-coordinate when x is 4.
How do we make the lines, though?
Now, having seen that one, we can now go on and take a look at the second one. We're looking for g of 1. Now, first of all, notice if we're asking about g, that means it's this graph up here. All right, so I'm looking for g of 1. What is 1? Is that the x-coordinate or the y-coordinate?
X-coordinate.
1 in the parentheses here, yes, is the x-coordinate. And so basically what this problem is saying is if x is 1, so if I go over 1, how high up is g? What's my y-coordinate on g? So what is that y-coordinate?
4. Whatever
4.
4.
And so g of 1 then equals 4. Now with those ideas in mind, I'd like you please to find these missing values. And I threw a challenge one in there in case you're finding this a little bit too simple. Alright, so let's take a look at that first one. It's asking us to find g of 3. So I'm going and looking at that function, the bluish-greenish one there. And we're looking to see when x is 3. So if x is 3, what is the y value for that graph?
We don't know, because it's not on a direct point.
Oh, it's not on a direct point. It's not on a nice pretty point. Is there still a point there?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean there is a point here because that's where x is 3 and we went up. So is there still a point there?
Yes.
Yes, so there is a number. Since we're going from a graph, it means we'll just have to estimate it. So that is more than what number? More than what whole number?
4.
4. Less than
5.
5. Is it closer to 4 or 5?
5. So 4.
Okay, so I'll say about approximately, say 4.8, 4.7, 4.75, something like that. But we estimate it. And sometimes being able to go from the graph like this tells us some quick information like that just going straight from an equation would be a real challenge to deal with. All right, next up, we're looking for f of 2. Now, this one is f of x, so that means that we're looking at the lower graph, the purple one. So for that one, the x is 2, and the y is, it's down there, right? So that's the point we're looking for. When x is 2, y looks like it is at -2. Because 0, 0 is right here, so that's +2, -2, like that. All right, for this last one, f of x equals 2. This one, it looks different, right? The reason is because we know what f of x is, but we don't know what x is. F of x is the same as what?
Y.
Y. Yeah.
Said it. So you go.
F of x is the same as y. So I go up to 2 on y. So basically I'm looking along this line, and I'm looking to see what is f there. So I'm looking for that point. What is the x-coordinate of that point? Well, I got 0 over here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's an x-coordinate of 4. Now this is just following up on what we did yesterday, just seeing things in a different way. The big idea here is saying whatever's inside the parentheses, that's our x value. And we can always use that to then find our y coordinate, our f or g, whatever it wants to be called. Now for the challenge, for those of you who did choose to go through and take a look at the challenge, if you see something like that, because that can look kind of crazy there, we actually start by figuring out the stuff that's inside, so g of 2. So I go over to my graph and I try to find out what g of 2 is, and that is up here at 5. So then that would be the same as f of 5, and then I have to go, okay, well what's f of 5? So I go over 5, and then I go to see what f is, and it looks like f up there is at 4. But again, that's the challenge problem. If you didn't get that one, that's okay. I wouldn't expect you to, but some of you are finding this a little easy, and I want to give you an opportunity to push your thinking a little.